Kevin Cramer, North Dakota Senator. First of all, Mr. Cramer, how are you feeling, sir?
I feel pretty good, Larry. Thank you. My hand is healing well. I'm short a half inch or so on one finger, but I think I'll be fine. Thank you.
All right. Well,
I feel blessed.
No, we were all praying for you. Honestly, everybody was praying for you. So you are well aware, I know, of the West Virginia versus EPA, and it was a big victory, presumably, I don't know, for the people. But in your assessment, and when you talk to folks, what are they saying? Because you could, this could be the beginning of the end of the war against fossil fuels. I know that we don't have the White House, and they still have regulatory, but regulatory overreach is kind of out of fashion now, I would think. What do you think?
Larry, I think that's exactly right. I think West Virginia versus EPA, which North Dakota was a party to, while it isn't precedent-setting in sort of a broad way, it certainly gives a clear signal from this court that the overreach of the federal government will not be tolerated, that in fact there are limits on the rules and regulations that environmental and other agencies can force on industry, and unless, of course, it's something that the people's representatives in Congress have passed into law. And what we have seen are these agencies doing extra legal, extra statutory, extra even constitutional rules and getting by with it until now. So this is a major victory. I think West Virginia versus EPA is just the beginning, frankly, Larry, of the pushback against the state, really.
Tell me more about that, Senator, because I'm gonna presume you're thinking about how the lower courts will work to implement the Supreme Court decision. Is that basically where you're going?
Well, that's right, Larry, but let's first go to the source of the problem, and that is the agencies. The agencies, if they're paying any attention, should recognize that they do not have this extra statutory, extra constitutional authority. And so hopefully the rules that come out from them, that they promulgate, and the regulations that come from the White House will be more in line with this thinking, with what is foundational, frankly, to our Constitution, that is federalism, states' rights, individual rights. But then if they don't, the district courts and certainly the appellate courts will have to look at West Virginia versus EPA, this ruling, and say, maybe not so much, federal agencies. We don't defer to you, we defer to the Constitution, we defer to states, we defer to what Congress did. And when Congress doesn't speak to something, that doesn't imply that their absence of saying something means you can do whatever you want. So to me, this is why Donald Trump was president for 4 years. This is why Mitch McConnell was majority leader, is so that we could restore the states' rights to the federal government and the federal state. And frankly, Larry, what I think ultimately the best outcome would be is if we just had a lot less need for federal government, because now states can take back control of what states are supposed to have control of.
Would you be sure and tell your friend Joe Manchin just what you just said, that we have a lot less need for the federal government?
Yeah, isn't that the truth? Isn't that? I think in his heart, Joe knows that's the truth.
Yeah, I know. I think he's breaking my heart, but we'll see. I don't want to go too far down that road. One thing, though. So, with respect to this decision and the likelihood that it curbs regulatory power, yet, Senator Cramer, within a week or two of the Supreme's decision here, you got the EPA putting out this ozone restriction that could shut down the Permian, could shut down the Bakken, it could shut down the Marcellus, right? I mean, he just goes ahead and does that based on thin air. There's no congressional law.
No, and that's, I think, a great point. Not only that, but then you have Pete Buttigieg over at the Department of Transportation doing his thing with greenhouse gas emission standards for state DOTs, which is a direct assault on states' rights, and which, by the way, in the infrastructure bill, we specifically excluded the ability of the federal government to do these things. So maybe I was expecting too much to think the agencies were going to behave better, but I do think they have to look at the courts and the entire value chain all the way up to the Supreme Court of the United States and know that these are not going the direction that the Supreme Court says they should.
All right. My guess is, sir, the Bidens are going to try to fight this, but they're going to lose. You know, and nothing will happen.
I agree. I agree.
Right, and if nothing happened, say that your attorney general in North Dakota or in Texas or someplace brings a lawsuit, that'll at least stop the bad stuff. Is that fair enough?
The one that really isn't that what the court's for, and that's what litigation should be. Litigation is the attempt, really it's the firewall, if you will, to stop bad things from happening. Right. It's Congress's job not to make bad things happen, and where bad things have happened, to correct the course if they can. But what is so, I think, important and what's so impressive about this Supreme Court is, again, they stick to the Constitution, they stick to statute, they expect agencies to stick to what has been passed in law, what authorities they've been given by the elected representatives, not to add these extra statutory, extra constitutional authorities. And by the way, I've had the opportunity now, Larry, to vote on 2 Supreme Court nominees, one Amy Coney Barrett, and of course, most recently, Judge Brown, and I've interviewed both of them. This was my only line of questioning for each of them was, what's your position on federalism? What's the role of federalism going forward, not just historically? They both answered the question differently, and it's reflected in their votes, of course, on these rulings.
Well, you're terrific, Senator Cramer. I'm glad you're feeling well, and if you buy Manchin dinner, I'll finance it. Okay, I'll finance it. I'll probably break a million FCC laws, but whatever. Just tell him Kudlow says hello. How's that?
I will tell him. I'll pass the message on. He's getting a lot of attention.
Yes, I know. Senator Kevin Cramer, the best of the best. Thank you, sir.